Amendment Bill 2023, SB 196. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission Act Amendment Bill 2023, SB 196, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission Act Amendment Bill 2023, SB 196, first reading, first reading taken, yes. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the top business of the day is presentation of the bill, standing in the name of Senator Adetokunbo Abiru Mukail on the National Flood Management Commission, Establishment Bill 2023, SB 215. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Flood Management Commission Establishment Bill 2023, SB 215, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, National Flood Management Commission Establishment Bill 2023, SB 215, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of the bill, standing in the name of Senator Uba Patrick Ifeanyi on Erosion Control Commission, Establishment Bill 2023, SB 216. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Erosion Control Commission Establishment Bill 2023, SB 216, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Erosion Control Commission Establishment Bill 2023, SB 216, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of the bill, standing in the name of Senator Oyewuchi Ezenwa Francis on the National Population Commission Act, Amendment Bill 2023, SB 217. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Population Commission Act Amendment Bill 2023, SB 217, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, National Population Commission Act Amendment Bill 2023, SB 217, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished leaders and senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the first order of the day is the second reading of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2023, SB 218. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do suspend its Rule 78 sub 1 in order to read the bill for a second time.
The Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion moved by the Senate leader that we suspend our rule in order to allow us to read the appropriation bill the second time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this Senate do suspend its Rule 78, subsection 1, in order to allow us to read the supplementary appropriation bill for the second time. Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the lead debate on the 2023 Supplementary Appropriation Bill, SB 218. Mr. President, my highly esteemed colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on this very important bill, which seeks to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the total sum of 2,176,791,086,033 naira only, of which 18 billion naira only is for statutory transfers, 992 billion 802 million 15,985 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 1,165 billion 989 million 270,049 naira only is for contribution to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on 31st December 2023. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, you will recall that the President and Commander-in-Chief, through a communication to the President of the Senate, forwarded the 2023 Supplementary Appropriation Bill to the Senate, which was read on the floor of this Senate today. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the 2023 supplementary budget is needed to fund urgent issues, including capital expenditure on defense and security, to tackle prevalent security challenges across the country. This is to sustain the gains made in security and to accelerate these funds, which are needed by security agencies before the end of the year 2023. Similarly, the 2023 Supplementary Appropriation Bill makes provision for 210 billion naira for the payment of wage awards in the negotiation with the labor movement, which the federal government agreed to pay together with the 35,000 naira to about 1.5 million employees of the federal government. Equally, the 2023 Supplementary Appropriation Bill makes provision for 18 billion naira for the Independent National Electoral Commission to support them in the conduct of the Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi general elections. Mr. President, my highly esteemed colleagues, the bill further provides for the sum of 5.5 billion naira only for the funding of the takeoff of the Student Loans Board, as well as 8 billion naira for the takeoff grants of new ministries. The sum of 200 billion naira is equally provided as capital supplementation to deal with urgent requests. In addition, considering the state of insecurity in the country, our security and law enforcement agencies urgently need to procure additional equipment and other resources in response to the prevalent security challenges across the country. The Ministry of Defense has carefully scrutinized these procurement needs, which the military authorities claim to represent the minimum requirements to secure our country and address current external and internal security challenges. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the supplementary budget request is for a total sum of 2,176,781,286,033 naira only. Despite the needs of other sectors, the supplementary budget proposal is limited to just these critical and emergency areas of need due to our severe fiscal constraints as a country. Finally, I believe that all the proposals in this supplementary appropriation are laudable and will enhance the critical needs of the citizens of this country. I thank you, distinguished colleagues, for your attention, and I move that the Senate do allow this bill to be read for the second time. I so move, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senate Deputy President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, let me commend the President for bringing forward this supplementary appropriation bill.
Point of order.
Yes, point of order.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, arise under Order 8 sub 3 of our rules to move that we extend our sitting time beyond 2 p.m. to allow us to take care of the other orders on the other paper for today.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion moved by the Senate leader that we extend our time beyond 2 p.m. to consider other matters on the paper.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this hallowed chamber do extend the time of our sitting beyond 2 o'clock. Those who are in support of the motion say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, the Senate Leader. Okay, we continue with the Deputy Senate President.
Mr. President, we are all aware of the fact that whenever a new government gets ushered into office, it's normal for that government to bring up a supplementary appropriation bill in order to tailor the affairs of such a government in line with the policy and program of the new government. Normally, you have this kind of supplementary appropriation bill being brought to the National Assembly for approval in the first month or the second month of the inception of the new administration. But this government decided to take its time to study its challenges and areas that need funding. It took time. And so it decided that the challenges we face in the area of insecurity, agriculture and our infrastructure should be dealt with. Then it decided that this bill should be brought forward for approval. It's a normal practice everywhere in the world. There's no government that will come in without rearranging the budgetary structure, the Appropriation Act, so that it gets tailored in line with its own policy and program. So it's not something new. Well, in one way, argue that, okay, there was a supplementary appropriation bill that was brought in. That was an amendment. It wasn't, something that was put together by this administration. It was brought in by the last administration, but what we needed at that time, it was an extension of time. And the issue of oil subsidy removal came, facing us. And so certain amount of money was taken in order to deal with that matter. But this is the real supplementary appropriation bill for this administration. And it's normal. So I, therefore, call on our colleagues to support the current administration by the passage of this bill, get it dealt with as soon as possible, because we are facing problem of insecurity. We can see what is happening even within Abuja here, where issues of kidnappings, one chance robbery is now a commonplace. We've seen issues of kidnappings and so on and so forth in the North Central, in the Northwest, and the challenges we are facing in the Niger Delta in terms of oil debt and so on and so forth. So we need these funds. The federal government needs this fund, this appropriation bill, in order to deal with these issues. So it is something that we need to support so that the government will be put in the best place to secure our country, enhance our infrastructure, and the agricultural sector as well. I therefore urge all of you to support this bill. Thank you.
Distinguished Chief Whip of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. I stand to more or less highlight and support the second reading of this bill. A bill was brought today. The first question is it necessary and urgent? And the answer is yes. The second question is looking at the summary, and if our colleagues have a copy, should also look at the summary. This is the first time the capital expenditure of every budget in the critical sectors is more than the usual 40 or less than 40% that we have. If you look at the budget on defense, this is the first time we have more than 50% allocated to address the issues of security challenges we have. If you look at the police, their own budget too is nearly 50% of the capital. And we all agree and know that we have, as the DSP mentioned, challenges in the area of security that needs to be addressed. And how do we address those challenges? Is by providing the security agencies what it takes to address these issues. If you look at that of works, we'll all agree that there are challenges, especially in the areas of rehabilitation of our roads. And that the recurrent side is zero, nil. If you look at the issue of housing, that is also a challenge where there is no recurrent but capital. Then capital supplementation as 210. In other words, this budget is purposely made to address the short-term and the immediate and pressing issues facing this country. Then on the issue of the expeditiousness of passing this supplementary budget, even if we pass it today, unless this House also gives its lifespan extension, it will expire in 8 weeks, and that is 2 months. We only have November and December. I hope my colleagues, with this little explanation, would understand why this Senate should expeditiously pass the supplementary budget so that we'll cover these gaps that are already existing. And meanwhile, as the chairman, the leader said in his presentation, the government is also mindful of the financial position we are. So I urge my colleagues to support this supplementary budget, and let us, as much as possible, pass it expeditiously. Even if we do that now, before he signs it, maybe it will remain, let's say, 6 weeks. And 2.1 trillion cannot easily be spent within 6 weeks. And therefore, we may have to put in the back of my mind that will extend the lifespan so that implementation of these critical areas will be possible. Thank you.
Senator Nwebwe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Onyekachi Peter Nwebonyi, representing the good people of Ebonyi North Senatorial District of Ebonyi State. I want to join my colleagues in support of this all-important bill, which to me is to address 4 critical challenges we are facing as a nation, ranging from infrastructure, security, labor demands, and most importantly, the student loan. I want to support this bill in view of the aforesaid. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Sani.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished